Hey everybody, it's Sidev. Here we are in turn 4 of my game. So, this has been an interesting turn. I've discovered that there's a very nice silicon monarchy here with 6 million population, so that's great. That's going to fill my money needs. This avian planet is also good actually. I'm going to send an LGSF there next turn. Right now I'm using McNimble's toolkit redraw and filter, and it shows how much money the natives will produce based on the size of the circle. But for avians, this is misleading. It's sort of a bug. The circle is actually about the same size as this one, or it should be. They both produce a similar amount of money. This one is 529 mega credits per turn, and this one is 460. So here's my LDSF. I'm going to draw up a bunch of clans. I don't need the mega credits because this is going to produce so much money, it's not important. But I do notice that there is tritanium at this planet, so I am going to drop some supplies and probably get some factories and mines going there. My LDSF is then going to go home and get more planets and go towards another planet the next turn. My MDSF discovered a planet that has tritanium also. It's not very much, but it is some, so that's good. The avian planet also has tritanium, so I should have good tritanium supply for this game, which will be important for building fighters and also for building Gorbies, which require a lot of tri. So I'm going to drop a clan there, and I'm going to keep exploring. This planet is pretty far off. I'm going to need warp 9 to get to it, so it's not that great. This one's a little closer, and I know that the enemy has an LCC out, so I don't want to go too far in this direction, but I'm thinking maybe it's worth exploring this planet. So I'm going to go there. I do have Dark Sense on this, and I had the Dark Sense mission set last turn as well for my home planet. And the fact that I didn't detect any enemy planets shows that the enemy homeworld must be more than 200 light years away, because 200 light years is the range limit of dark detection. Dark sense, rather. So this planet is 202 light years, so that's a candidate for its homeworld. So I can at least rule out this planet here as being the homeworld. So that's good, they're not too close. And the LCC that they built is probably here this turn. Now, at my homeworld, I've got my Gorby here. And I've got 50 fighters in my starbase, so that's pretty good. And one of the reasons I chose to build a Gorby right now is because the maximum capacity of my starbase is 60 fighters. I'm at 50, and it produces 15 per turn. So next turn, that would be 65, which is bigger than the capacity of the starbase, which means I'll actually lose 5 fighters that didn't get built. So in order to avoid losing fighters, I wanted to build a Gorby or some kind of carrier before that happened. So I'm just going to load it up. I'm going to put all my fuel on it. And I think I'm going to bring some clans too. Set it to Minesweep. It's got disruptors in case the enemy puts up minefields. And I'm just going to hit it there for this turn. I want to try to keep my Gorby invisible to the enemy as long as possible, so that they don't detect them. But I'm only going to be able to hide it for one turn, because after that I'm going to have to cross some open space, and there he'll definitely see me. So if this is his home world, it would take me 5 turns to get there, so it's not so bad to go there and then take that 5 turns with this one hidden. So that's where I'm going to go. And then finally, I have to build a ship. Now, I'm pretty anxious to build a torpedo ship right now so that I can lay mines. But I also need money. Right now my mega credits are pretty low because I just spent all of them on getting a Gorby by upgrading to Tech 10 hulls. So even if I were to build a superstar frigate right now, I wouldn't be able to build that many mines. So I'm gonna try to go for an economic strategy right now and build an LDSF. Because I'm low on money, I'm gonna want to also save money on engines. Normally I'd go for Warp 7, but in this case, I'm gonna see if I can save some money. So here's Warp 7, which will cost me 500 mega credits if I build it on the LDSF. But if I pick Warp 6 instead, it'll only be 266, so that's almost half the cost. So I'm going to go for that because I'm really low on mega credits right now, and I don't actually need that much engine speed right now. These planets that are near me are actually pretty close. This one's only 31 light years away, and this one's about 36. So I can get there at Warp 6, no problem. So that LDSF will keep pretty busy, and Warp 6 should be enough. Another factor to consider when in a Blitz game is how much fuel are you going to lose by overdriving your engines? Well, in this case, I've got this big gap here that'll require Warp 9, so that might not be feasible for any ship, really. But this one over here, I can get there in 64 light years, so at Warp 8. So what if I want to overdrive my engines? What's a good pick for that? Well, I actually made a spreadsheet to help answer that. And this looks at your fuel use and how much you'll use depending on your warp speed and how much distance you're going. So let's say I'm building a large deep space freighter, and I want my distance to be 64 light years. What it's going to tell me here is how much fuel that will require depending on what engine. So right here, if I had a proper Warp 8 engine, the fuel use would be pretty low, and it's considerably higher for these ones. But it's not unacceptable. This is looking at how much fuel it would cost for one trip with full cargo on board. So these are usually the candidates I pick, Warp 5 to Warp 7 engines. They're all actually pretty close together in terms of fuel consumption if I'm overdriving. So whether I pick Warp 5 or Warp 7, the difference isn't that big. But these other ones are way too high in fuel consumption, so they're pretty much out of the question. Now this red line here is the cost in mega credits for those engines. Now I'm low on mega credits, so I want to get the cheapest one I can. Now you can see the cost here for the Heavy Nova Drive 6 is pretty low, but if we even go to the next engine, the Quantum Drive 7, it's a pretty huge jump in mega credit costs. So that would be spending 100 mega credits on engine versus 340. I don't really want to spend that right now, and since the fuel difference is pretty small, I'm just going to go with the Warp 6. That turns out to be, according to this graph, a pretty good choice. So I've got pretty much everything in line. Now, if I did want to start making more money, I could start taxing my homeworld. But normally when I play Blitz games, I don't do that unless I'm really desperate or if I'm really going for a rush strategy. So I'm going to let my population grow, and I'm going to not use the tax down to 40 strategy. I'm going to use a growth tax strategy, which I normally do in Blitz games. So I'm pretty okay with this turn now, and I think I'm going to end it here. But actually, after I build some mines here, I want to get my tritanium going as fast as possible. Alright, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to end my turn there, and I'll see you next turn. Ciao.